What's up, guys? It's John here, and I wanted to run through the playoffs. So it's been tough because the last couple nights I've been wanting to do a video, and got a wedding coming up and a bunch of other things. So it's just been a little busy, but I had my first round predictions, obviously, and most of them did all right. But our team to make the West in the finals, Lakers, lost. I like a true mark. I just assumed that they would go with LeBron and Bronny and do something there, but there was probably a lot of money on them once they got Luka, so I get it. I still think I think LeBron's gonna finish with more rings than Curry. I just can't imagine them finishing with the same amount of rings. But I wanted to go into the rest of the series. So some of these are a little different than obviously what I had. We did have the Warriors advancing and the Wolves. Same with the Nuggets and Thunder. In the West, I did have the besides the Lakers. I'm trying to think. I think the Lakers were the one. In the East, I had I thought the Pistons might have got it done against the Knicks, and obviously the Knicks are looking really good. So either matchup there, Knicks Celtics or Pistons Celtics, I think is going to end the same. But I'll go into that in a second. So anyway, for tonight's game, it's already started. Again, by the time I get home, just because I have a long commute with work, usually the first game's starting or pretty close to starting. But I'm going to go into the series because obviously the Warriors took game one. With this point spread, it's, I think, pretty obvious the Wolves are going to cover here. I think it was 10.5, which even without Curry, it's a lot of points for a team that just lost. I do think this series, even though Golden State's up 1-0, it's probably going to be 1-1, obviously, after tonight. I like the Timberwolves simply because they're really pushing this narrative of Anthony Edwards being, the legend killer. So he knocked out Kevin Durant last year. He knocked out LeBron this year. And when they talk about the older guys, it's always those same three: LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Curry. So sometimes they'll put Harden in that conversation, but usually it's those three guys. So I think they're going to continue that narrative and have Ant go ahead and knock Curry out of the finals. Now, Curry's not playing tonight. He'll probably be back, I would think. I'd probably think their next game, to be honest. Maybe game 4, but I think he'll be back in their next game. And it'll be a good series. But I think they're going to have that narrative of Ant beating, all the legends, if you will. So, essentially, I have to pick a new team for the West because obviously it's not going to be the Lakers. And I'll be honest, to me, no team jumps out of the West that I think's super obvious. But the only team that makes sense to me is a pretty obvious one. But well, actually, two make sense to me. I don't think one's as obvious as the other. One, just the Thunder. They've been looking really good, so I could definitely see them Celtics. That would make a lot of sense. But there's also something interesting with the West they can do, which would be, I don't know the last time it's happened, so I'll go into this now. So anyway, what we have is we got Cavs, Pacers, and we got Thunder, Nuggets. This is tomorrow. And for these particular games, I do think Cleveland's going to win tomorrow. They got beat up pretty, twice in a row. Went down 2-0. And on the road, they're a 2.5 point favorite. I think more people will be on the Pacers this game. So I do like the Cavs to cover this. I do think the Pacers are going to hold this and move on. I brought this up, from the beginning with the Cavs. They just remind me of like the Vikings in the NFL. They often have really good regular seasons, but they're often eliminated in the first or second round pretty unceremoniously. So I think this is as far as the Cavs go, and that's one thing from the beginning that I just really maintained. I was thinking more something like I thought the Bucks were going to go further actually too. If I'm being honest, I thought the Bucks would have gone further than the Cavs, but obviously we had the Dame injury and all that, so I think half the injuries are fake to be honest. But either way, I think the Cavs are going to maybe push it to 5 or 6, but I got them tomorrow covering, but I do like the Pacers to win the series still. And then here we got a 1-1 series. Oklahoma City's a pretty big favorite here. And like I said, I think they do make sense to represent the West. They would be fresh. They kind of give me Lions vibes, where They just they had a better year than last year, even though they had a pretty good year last year. And I can see them doing it. This particular game, 5.5 points in Denver. Denver just got shellacked. I actually like Denver to win this game at home just because of how bad they got beat. I think the public might be taking Oklahoma City. It is a pretty heavy spread, but almost anybody the Thunder plays, even on the road, they're going to be favorites. And this happened with the Clippers too. They were favorites in almost every game, and the Nuggets moved on. So for this series, I actually like, even though I'll put it this way, I think the winner of this game is going to be the representative of the finals in the West now. But I'm going to go with the Nuggets just because I think it would be interesting if the Nuggets win. And the other one I have winning is probably the most unlikely right now just because they're down 2-0. I still have Boston moving on to the finals. So I think they're going to come down from this 2-0 deficit. I wonder if it's a 3-1 comeback. I did think we'd get another one of those. We had the Warriors one, obviously, years ago. But the reason I like Boston still is because I just think they're the strongest team out of the East. And it would be interesting because we'd have the winner of the last two, finals playing each other. The Celtics, obviously, last year, and the Nuggets the year before. So I have a feeling that the Nuggets are actually going to get back there. So I like the Nuggets for the West, and I like the Celtics for the East. So in this game here, again, despite getting shellacked twice in a row at home, they're 5.5 point favorites against the Knicks. I just don't. I'm covering this, by the way, for Saturday just because, again, sometimes it's not as frequent that I can get the videos out. So the spreads aren't going to change that much. So I do think it's just better for me to cover them now, just in case I can't do a video tomorrow. But yeah, I like this. I like the Celtics in Game 3. I like them to cover the 5.5. I think a lot of money is going to be on New York, and I think Boston winds up just taking the series. So this would be a good time to take them because they are getting plus odds on the series. It's not as crazy as you would think. I was seeing like plus 160 and plus 180 on different books, which again might be a giveaway because if that's the case, there's probably a lot of money on the Knicks. Up 2-0 with two games at home in a row. It just really seems like, in a non-scripted league, the Knicks would probably go up 3-1 here. So yeah, with the way the spread looks, I like the Celtics to win this particular game and cover it. So I think they'll move it to 2-1. And I could see them dropping 3-1 again. Lose game 4 and then take the next two, and we have a game 7. I think they would take that. And we don't have a spread here yet for Timberwolves Warriors. That's, again, which makes it tough to do these videos sometimes just because I work during the day. And sometimes if it's a couple days out, there's no spread. I imagine it's because they're waiting on the results of tonight's game. Plus, they don't know Curry's status. So I don't really, I can't really pick a spread in this particular game. But again, I think the Wolves are going to wind up advancing in the series. So I think it'll be the Wolves and the Nuggets that advance. It'll be a little bit of a rivalry game because I think the Wolves knocked out the Nuggets last year, if I'm not mistaken. It was like the second round or something. So I think that would be a good rematch. I did think of the prospect of Warriors, Celtics again, Again, I just don't think Curry... I suppose he could get there and lose, and he would still be tied with LeBron. I just don't think they're going to give him really any more accolades where they could put him in the LeBron conversation. They seem to want LeBron outside of Jordan. They kind of want LeBron on his own tier where he's like way more established. And if Curry gets there again, then there's that argument if he's better than LeBron. And, he very well may be if you're looking at the numbers and stuff, but they're very, very particular, these, the sports media, with not wanting some guys touched, it seems like, and trying to establish certain players as just better than others. And I do think by the end, they're going to have LeBron closer to the Jordan tier than the Steph Curry tier. So, again, Warriors Celtics, I could see that making some sense, but because you basically have the same teams, not much has changed for either team. Obviously, the Warriors have Butler now. And that's another actually one that'd be interesting, just because if Warriors and Nuggets advance, Jimmy Butler has kind of a rivalry game against the Nuggets because they knocked out, yeah, they beat the Heat when he was on their team a couple of years ago. So I could see it going a few different ways, but I'm just gonna stick with Nuggets Celtics, the last two champs to play each other, and I don't know, Nuggets just kind of giving me like Eagles vibes, where I feel like the public just feels like something's missing with the Nuggets, and they're not getting hyped up like they were before, and that's kind of what they did with the Eagles. They kind of treated them all year this year just kind of like an average team, even though nothing really changed. You know, they had the same weapons, and they kind of came out of nowhere and won everything. I think we're going to see the same with the Nuggets. I just have this feeling that they're kind of acting like they're not the same. They're missing something. But, I mean, they just got destroyed in their last game. But overall, they're kind of playing the same. So, yeah, I like Nuggets Celtics. So, yeah, I think we're going to see in the next round Celtics Pacers. You got the Larry Bird connection there, obviously, which is interesting. And I do think the Celtics are going to advance it and get back to the finals. And they're obviously, I think, the maybe outside of the Thunder, but I think the Celtics even more so because they just won, kind of considered as just the runaway favorites to win the whole thing. Again, right now down 2-0, they're not, but just in general. So I think they're the strongest team out of the East. And they love having teams go back to back, whether they win it or not. And yeah, in the West, I do think it's going to be the Wolves. I think Ant's going to knock out another legend, which would be Curry. And then, yeah, I think the Nuggets, which would be the biggest upset of all of them, just because even though it's a tied series, the Thunder are pretty heavy favorites. And I think Russ winds up getting a little bit of revenge against his former team. They've been really showing him a lot, if you noticed. They showed him in the prior series that they won, in the first round. And they're showing him a lot against the Clippers, I think it was. And they're showing him a lot now, so yeah, I think the Nuggets are a strong pick. Again, just because the Vegas odds are pretty appealing. And I do think a lot of people are just assuming the Thunder are going to do it because they've won so many games by like a wide margin this year. SGA is going to win MVP. So I see why people are on the Thunder. But yeah, I like the Nuggets. I don't know why. I think it's mostly just because I think them and Boston would be an interesting matchup. Mostly because of the fact that it's the last two champions. And I'd say over the last 3 years, both of them have been, if you just kind of encompass, the entire season, they've both been booked as the strongest team in their respective conferences. So it'd be a battle of the heavyweights for sure. And I think it'd be a draw too. So not that I have more faith in the Celtics, even though they're down 2-0, than my West pick. Because my West pick, I really had faith in the Lakers. I know a lot of people told me no, they're gonna pull a Lakers and just get bumped, and I was like, I don't think so. I think this year is different. I made the same mistake in the NFC. I thought the Cowboys were gonna make a run in the NFL, and they didn't. So just wrong about the Lakers. No excuses there. But I do think Celtics still, and I like the Nuggets on the West. And then as far as who wins, this one I thought about too because, again, if Joker wins, then they have to start putting him in almost like the Shaq category. Just because, in my opinion, of how dominant his seasons have been. He's got, 3 MVPs, and we can argue he could have 5, right? Because 2 years, it looks like he's going to get screwed. The year that Joel Embiid won it, and this year he's not going to win it, I don't think. So, I don't know if they're going to want to give him that big of a resume, just because they really do reserve, multiple rings and multiple MVPs for a very small amount of players, if you look at the list. But I don't think getting a second ring would catapult him ahead of all the guys that they like to call the greatest, like Shaq and such. So, especially because Joker's going to be retiring pretty soon. He's not playing long, from what I can tell. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal if he gets there. Versus, Steph Curry getting there. And again, the sports media just seems very, very anal about how they treat certain players. They'll never let LeBron touch Jordan. It seems they're never going to let Mahomes touch Brady. As good as certain players are, it's they want to keep certain at just almost in this like untouchable category. And yeah, I don't see Steph getting that fifth ring or even getting back, and they have an argument that he's better than LeBron. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but they just seem to really be very anal that way about certain players and what they allow them to get. So yeah, I think the Celtics again, a good pick to at least win the series. I think they're gonna win both, so I think you might as well take them to win the East. But down up 2-0 here is going to be the best odds we're going to get. I certainly don't think they're dropping 3-0, but I think it'll be 2-1 and then maybe 3-1 and they come back. But I do think the line's just too fishy with the Celtics. I don't think the Knicks are going to do it. I think it's going to be Boston. And yeah, of the teams in the West, to me, the Nuggets make the most sense. I think they're being slept on. And I also think a bunch of people are thinking Thunder or Warriors. And I just don't think the Wolves, I don't think Anthony Edwards is that big of a draw, to be honest. So I don't think they're going to have him go to the finals. He certainly could. I don't think he's getting his first ring before Luka. That just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, or even before SGA, to be honest. So I think I think it makes sense. He knocks out the Warriors, knocks out Steph Curry, and then I think it'll be the Nuggets that knock out the Wolves. And then yeah, I think the Celtics make a nice comeback here, and then probably go another 6 or 7 and beat the Pacers. I think that'll be a long series too. So yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to cover the next couple days games, and just cover my amended finals prediction because obviously my West team got booted. So I'm just going with the next best team that makes sense. Yeah, this is a runaway right here. This one, there's just, even without Steph, 10.5. I feel like a lot of people were probably on the Warriors, maybe with some teasers. And also the first several games, I think it was like the first 2 games for not every team, but the first game for every team, it was all underdogs on the road that won, I believe. And then if you notice, like the Thunder just decimated the Nuggets. I think we're going to see the same here. So yeah, this 10.5 spread was kind of a giveaway, but either way, I think Curry comes back and it'll be a close series. But I like Ant to knock him out. And then yeah, I just think I have this feeling about the Nuggets. I don't know. The payout would be much bigger for the Nuggets, obviously, than the Thunder. But I do think a lot more people are on the Thunder. I just feel like, from what I can see, the public really believes in them this year. So yeah, I think it's going to be the 2 reigning champs, the Celtics Thunder. Oh, I'm sorry, Celtics Nuggets. And yeah, of those 2 teams, I had the Lakers beating the Celtics. When it's Celtics Nuggets, it's a little tougher for me to call just because I wouldn't be shocked if either of those teams won. But I do actually like the Nuggets to beat the Celtics. So I think the winner is going to come out of the West. I think they want. I know. I just have this feeling they want to keep the Celtics Lakers pretty close as far as pennants, and they've been, they were tied for a long time, and they've always stayed pretty close to each other. So I don't think the Celtics are going to pull 2 ahead. I think the appeal of the Lakers getting number 18 and tying the Celtics makes a little more sense. So I think the Celtics get back there, but lose this time. Kind of, I guess the Chiefs just did that, and a lot of times they copy scripts. So yeah, I could see the Celtics getting there, but losing this time to the Nuggets. And if it's if it turns out to be another team, I'll obviously give an update at that point. But let's just say it turned out to be Celtics Thunder. It's kind of the same. I think it'll be the Thunder. I don't think the Celtics are going to win it. I think they're going to go back though. So you can let me know what you think. Obviously, even though we got most of them right, we got the most important one wrong because I did have the Lakers winning the whole thing. So again, just a bad call there. I really do think they're going to get one. I think LeBron's going to stay, and I really think he's going to get it. I think they want to do the whole father-son winning a championship thing together because they're really not going to have another opportunity, probably ever, to do this. So to me, it just makes sense. So I'll just be doubling down on the Lakers next year. I think LeBron stays, and I think Bronny winds up sticking around too. But for this year, yeah, pretty wrong. Just because, again, our pick from the beginning is out in the first round. But yeah, I think the Nuggets of all the teams left make the most sense. And I know a lot of people like the Knicks out of the East and like the Pacers, and they would be fresh. But I think they usually have like a fresh team, like the Lions. I think of they went to the NFC Championship, but they couldn't get past there. And again, it wound up being the Eagles, which was kind of a rematch. And this wouldn't be a rematch with the Celtics Nuggets, but it would be again the last two champs. I'll have to look into that. I'm curious the last time that's happened in basketball, where you had a team win and you had another team win, and in the next year those two teams played in the finals. It has to have been a little bit, maybe not too long though, because LeBron and Curry both won for a while. So there's probably a year where LeBron won, then Curry won, and then they played each other again, something like that. So it probably hasn't been too long, but it's been long enough that I think it makes sense. It's a pretty appealing storyline. So yeah, I'm not sure the exact odds on Celtics Nuggets right now, but it's got to be pretty good. It's got to be like plus 1,200 or something, because the Nuggets alone are not favorites to go to the finals, and the Celtics are getting plus odds by themselves now because of their 2-0 deficit here. So yeah, let me know what you think. Feel free to roast me for picking the Lakers. I don't mind. I rode them pretty hard, even though I'm not a LeBron guy. I just call what I think that they're going at, and I should have known it was shot once they got Luka, because obviously you would think the Lakers, who are already a contender, you add Luka Doncic and they're a runaway favorite. But I thought, sometimes I feel like they do certain narratives and they don't even care about where the public's at, because they're going to get their money anyway. But yeah, I had that one abysmally wrong. Our East pick's still in it, and I do think that they'll eke this series out and move on. But yeah, as far as tomorrow, like I said, I do like the Cavs to cover, make it 2-1. And I like in this particular game, again, the 5.5 point spread. It is kind of heavy for an away team. But again, they just pounded the Nuggets. They got 18 more wins in the regular season. And the Nuggets haven't been exactly themselves. But again, they're kind of reminding me of the Eagles. They still had a fine year. They're just not really getting talked about, which makes me think they could come out of nowhere and do it. So, yeah, I think the Nuggets win this game. So plus 170, not a bad line here at home, especially. And yeah, the Cavs I think cover, but I still think the Pacers win the series. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna have a lot of different opinions here. A lot of fresh teams. Like, they did show how like most of the teams from last year are the same teams back. But I would argue the Knicks are a little bit different. Obviously, the Warriors are a lot different this year, and the Pacers too. There's a lot of teams that are playing differently, being treated differently. So yeah, I think we get that Celtics Nuggets matchup, and it's pretty good plus odds. So definitely wouldn't hurt to put something on there. But yeah, if you have any other like ideas of why the Warriors or whoever, Wolves, Thunder, whoever, maybe the Knicks, whoever you like out of the East makes sense, obviously let me know. I'm always curious other people's theories. I just think at this point, Celtics Nuggets is a good one that not a lot of public's going to be on, especially with the way these series have started. Of both sides, I have more faith in the Celtics, again, just because I did like them from the beginning of the year to at least get back there. But I do really think the Nuggets are, just being slept on here, and you never know with the sports media, but I think they're going to wind up taking this series, especially after that shellacking. I think a lot of people might be off of them after that, because they won the first game in a very close fashion and then got bludgeoned in the second game. So I think if anything, the public's going to be liking the Thunder even more here. But yep, I'm curious what you guys think. I wish I could have got, a video out a little sooner. But some of these, again, we're going to be getting better odds on now that I'm doing it now, because should the Celtics come back, we're at plus odds there. The Thunder, After again destroying the Nuggets, we're getting pretty good odds just on this game's plus 170, and for the series, we're getting plus odds there. So I think we have a good opportunity for some value picks here, and there's just no way like in the round before the Eastern and Western Championship, I don't see teams going up 3-0. I don't see too many sweeps. So it's another reason I really like the Cavaliers, and then the Celtics, obviously, too. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, just let me know your theories, and feel free to roast me for my Lakers pick. I really thought they were going to pull the trigger there. And again, I still think they will. I just think it might be next year now. So take care, and happy earnings.